right, so continuing our discussion on whole digit operations or multi-digit whole number operations. Um, we've talked in the past about area model, we talked about the distributive property, we talked about the commutative property. Now we're tying it all together, and today I got a word problem for you. Here's the word problem. It says the carpet costs $16 a square foot. A rectangular floor is 16 feet long by 14 feet wide. How much would it cost to carpet the floor? A couple things that we can do right off the bat. We can start underlining things or pointing things out. So we know that the carpet costs is $16 per square foot. Okay, and that we have a floor that is 16 by 14 feet wide. So I have a picture here, and I like to think in pictures. So here we have our picture right here, and I'm just going to label it and kind of give you an idea of what this might look like. So if we do this, we might say that this is 16 feet all the way across, and this is 14 feet. Now the question is that we need to know is it cost $16 per square? So if we added these up, it would be how much is one square? That's one square, $16. So how much is the entire? If we filled this whole thing up, how much is that? So that's what the question is asking. Okay. In this case, we got to do some math. And if we know what area is, and we've talked about this in class, area is length times width, which we have both of those. So we need to know the area in order to find how much it's going to cost. So what we can do is we could actually break this up. We could break these up and use the area model to determine how this might work if we want to. The standard algorithm would work as well, but it's a lot easier to see what the question is asking if we break it apart using the area model. So for instance, if we have 10 plus 6, the total side, remember the total side is 16. That's the total, 16 feet. And this is the total of 14 feet. This would be, let's do the 14 in a different color. 14, maybe this would be 14 feet, so maybe 10 plus 4. And then we could just simply split it up. Let's do black. So if we use the area model, and then what we do is we distribute the numbers. We've talked about distributive property. I'm going to show the equation at the end of this, what that would look like. So in this case, we're going to multiply 10 times 10, which is 100. And then we go across and up is 6 times 10 is 60. 10 times 4 is 40. And 6 times 4 is 24. And then we add them all together. I know that I'm doing this in my head, so I'm going to take these two and group them, and that would be 100. So now I have 200 plus 24, which would equal 224 feet. That is not our answer because the question is, how much is it going to cost? So what do we need to do with the 224? We need to multiply by 16. And we're talking about dollars, so we're changing this into dollars. So our answer is going to be in dollars. What does this tell us? This actually tells us, if we get rid of all of this, this tells us, if we bring this back, that this is 224 feet of space, square feet, right? Feet squared. We actually didn't talk about that. It should be feet squared. Square foot, feet squared. The reason being is because this is feet and this is feet. We actually haven't talked about that. So just a brief, when we deal with area, I say area squarea because feet times feet is always going to be feet squared. And we can talk about what that means later on. But that's just a brief aside. So we're going to have that 224 feet squared. So now the question becomes, how much is it going to cost? And now we can use the standard algorithm to figure that out. I'm going to show you both ways. You could have done, what you could have done, let's talk about this real quick before we do the standard algorithm. What you could have done, I'm just going to move this over here because that's what we're dealing with so far. What you could have done is, if you wanted to show the standard algorithm, you could have just done 16 feet times 14 feet, and then set it up and did your standard algorithm and known that you would have gotten feet squared. In this case, it would have been 224, right? What you are doing in this process is you're using the distributive property. So if we rewrote our problem, get rid of this, we broke it apart 10 plus 6, remember that? 10 plus 6 is 16 times 10 plus 4. That's the distributive property happening, because if we distribute the two tens, we get the 100. If we distribute 10 to the 4, we get 40. The 6 to the 10 is 60, and the 6 to the 4 is 24, and that's going to all add up. And remember, these are all feet squared, going to add up to 224. So now we move on to our next step and say, now we're multiplying it by $16. So our answer is going to be in dollars. Okay. And in this case, if we do it correctly, how we do the algorithm, I'm going to show you the algorithm this time instead of showing the area model. You could do the area model, it does not matter to me. But if we do the algorithm, it's 6 times 4 is 24, carry the 2, 6 times 2 is 12, and 2 more is 14. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 more is 13. Okay. 1 times 4, we add a 0 here, 1 times 2, and 1 times 2. Then we add them all up. So for 224 square feet of carpet, it's going to cost $3,584. You may want to check your answer, and if you check your answer, you should get that is correct. Now, how would we write that? We would just say, how much would it cost to carpet the floor? It would cost $3,584. There you go.